Hello and welcome to Veg Around the World with me, Meenakshi Garodia, where I believe in simple recipes, authentic taste. Today is a very special episode. One, because it's the first episode of season 3, and second, because it's not one country that I'm taking. I'm actually going to make a few dishes from a few different countries, and we have a guest star. Our guest star is someone who's very, very special to me. I've known her for her whole life. I probably knew about her. I did know about her before she was born, and that is Anushka.
Hi. I really love cooking, so I'm really excited to be on the show, and I'm excited to make all these interesting dishes.
So the episode today is Veg Around the World Kids. In this episode, every dish is potentially a dish that a child could make all alone. Of course, this has to be a child who's comfortable with heat and comfortable with a little bit of cutting, or whose parents are kind of proactive and have cut and chopped and left stuff in the fridge for them to use. But all these dishes are really, really easy. So just to give you a little lineup of what we're going to be making today, we're going to be, for drinking, what do you think is the most favorite thing for kids in the cold?
Probably hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate. So we're going to make chocolate. Now, I don't like using a premix mix for the hot chocolate, and the reason for that is the amount of sugar. If you make it at home with unsweetened cocoa powder and milk, the quantity of sugar you use, I mean, if it's sweet, it has to have sugar in it, or honey actually. I made it with honey, it tastes pretty good. And it's maybe less than half of what you would get in a mix. So we're going to start off with making hot chocolate. And then, if you poll your kid for your favorite food, what would you say one of your favorite foods is?
Pizza or spaghetti.
Pizza, spaghetti. So we're making pizza and spaghetti. And along with that, there's a really simple Spanish dish which I cannot pronounce the name of. It's really complicated.
It's called Queso de Cabra al Horno con Tomate.
Okay, I cannot say that. I seriously cannot say that. But we're going to make that. And the basis for these 3 dishes is going to be a really rich, hearty red sauce. And to end it off with, we need a dessert, right? I mean, you can't make a kid dish and not offer them some dessert. And one of the favorite things, which is one of the most versatile and easy things to make, is
sugar cookies.
And we're going to give you 3 different types of toppings on it, and just we're going to have fun with it. We're going to start off with hot chocolate. Making hot chocolate is really, really easy. Of course, we need to start off with
2 cups of milk,
let's not forget the
cocoa powder.
How much do you think we should put in?
4 teaspoons.
Okay, sounds good. 1, 2,
3, 4.
And then we're going to use some sugar. We'll just use a spoon, it's okay. How much sugar do you think we're going to use?
6 teaspoons.
Okay, go ahead. 1, 2. I mean, it's also pretty much like 2 tablespoons. You could also put the same quantity of honey. And again, how sweet you like your cocoa is your decision. This is pretty sweet for me, so I'm happy with that. And my kids are happy with that, more importantly. 6. And give it a little whirl. If you look at it right now, it looks really lumpy and bumpy. And typically, like if you make hot cocoa, they say you take some cocoa, you take hot water, you whip it up. But actually, if you just heat it right now, these lumps go away. And you're going to see that soon. So we're going to put it here and put on the heater. And we're not going to make it very hot. We're going to make it maybe like 4 and just let it go. The next thing we're going to make is the hearty red sauce. To make the tomato sauce, it's really easy. Now you can use fresh tomatoes, but especially with kids, I just feel more comfortable using cans. I mean, a lot of kids are comfortable cutting tomatoes, but tomatoes are pretty much the slipperiest things to cut. Also, onions. You don't need your onions to be finely chopped because we're going to be blending the whole mixture into making it a red sauce. But what I do personally for myself is I don't want to be cutting onions all the time, and I don't like to buy produce, so I actually just chop it myself and I put it in my freezer. So if you're a proactive parent whose kid loves to cook, having onions pre-cut is a lot of sense. Also, in places you get garlic, which is crushed like this. I actually again crushed my own garlic, but for today's show I just bought this. So what do you think we need to do next?
Let's
Start making it? So first we heat the pan, I put it on. Can you put a dash of olive oil? That's good. While the oil's heating, how much do you think we should put?
I think about a cup.
A cup's good. Go ahead. Put that much and put as much again. That's good.
Okay.
And 1 clove of garlic. So you turn it upside down and be careful to only push 1. Because this is electric, you need to stir it a little bit more than on gas. If you're doing this on a gas flame, you can just let it go. Now we're going to wait for this to pink. Do you think red sauce is your favorite thing to eat?
Definitely.
And once you have this red sauce ready, you can actually, it freezes really well, and you can boil whatever type of pasta you like and
Eat it with anything else.
exactly. As you can see, these onions look nice and pink, so they cooked a bit. So we're going to go ahead and add the
Tomatoes.
Actually, before adding the tomatoes, let's add some spices. There are very simple spices in this. We have
1 teaspoon of
oregano
oregano.
and
1 teaspoon of,
basil and
of course, half teaspoon of salt.
yeah. Give it a nice stir. Perfect. Now let's add the tomatoes. Ooh,
Smells so good.
perfect. Now let me start with a little stir. And that's it. The sauce is pretty much done. All we need to do, the trick behind a really good sauce, is all this liquid has to evaporate. So we're just going to let it cook, stew in its own juices, and wait for it to cook. Now, while this is cooking, there was one dish we totally forgot to mention, right? Which was the puff pastries. Originally, this is a very simple dish. This is from my childhood. We used to call them patties. So you would have like these puff pastry triangles, and you'd fill them with a mixture of samosas. Now, I don't know how many people have had Indian food and had samosas, but this is really like one of my best childhood dishes. And I was going to make it with samosas, except I have a slightly healthy child here who says, may I please have some spinach instead, spinach and cheese. So we're going to be doing samosa puffs without samosa fillings and with spinach and onion, cheese. Let's start with a little dash of
Olive oil.
oil. Perfect. In the spinach mixture, we're going to be putting in onions, spinach, obviously, and some salt and pepper, and that's about it. So why don't you go ahead and put maybe a cupful of onions. The onions for this has to be finely chopped because we're not going to be pureeing this. That's perfect. We're basically going to use slightly more than 1 cup of spinach for this. Give it a stir. These onions look nice and pink. So let's go ahead and add some spinach. We need to add, hold this, I'll pour the spinach out, slightly more than 1 cup. I normally approximate this because there's no wrong or right answer in this. Hold it a bit lower. Don't burn your hand. I know. Okay, pour that in. You could use fresh spinach too. I'm just using frozen. Okay. You can or cannot add salt, but just like a sprinkle of salt. Put this much more again. And a little grinding of pepper. All yours. Elbow grease. You could add some green chilies if you were making it for grown-ups. And actually the way I'm going to show you, you can use any mixture at all with your puff pastries. Let's check on the cocoa. That looks pretty good. We're just going to move this over and let it simmer on maybe like a 1, just so that it's warm and ready for us to drink it when we are ready to drink it. And let's go ahead and make our pasta. You can use any pasta with the red sauce. Obviously, you have spaghetti, you have ravioli, you have penne. Penne is what I have. This I'm going to do today right now with a little bit of help from Anushka. I just boil my water beforehand. It just saves so much time on the stove. That's enough for our purposes. A dash of salt. A dash of olive oil. We're going to put it on super hot. And put in some pasta. Can you do that for me?
Of course.
Pour some in. Carefully. Make sure that your hands are high above. And the pasta should not come over the water level. I think that's good. I think that's enough pasta for today. And now we wait. We are pretty much playing musical stoves here. This was here, then it went there. That started here, went there, it's come here. This started here, it's gone there. This is going to go off. Now, we're going to use puff pastries. Now, puff pastries is sort of dough you get in your local supermarket. We take it out. You preheat your oven to 400 degrees. And this is absolutely delicious, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is so easy to make. You just need to have this in your fridge, and it lasts a very long time in the refrigerator. So come, we just roll it out gently. And we're going to just bake it right on this sheet. And we're going to take a pizza cutter and cut it into 4 equal halves. Yep. Slightly more equal. Now in each of these, we're going to put some stuffing. Depending upon the stuffing, depending on the size, you'll have to change the stuffing accordingly. Go ahead. Just put a little bit right here. We're going to take a
Slice of cheese.
You can never go wrong with cheese. Perfect. And then we scooch it over and press down. Press, 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 press. Because we actually want the puff pastry to puff, we're not going to make fork holes in it. Okay, let's make the others. And the oven has been preheated to 400. And we're just going to put this into bake. This has to bake around 50. Normally puff pastry you bake for around 12 minutes. This one we're going to bake more like 18 minutes because it's got spinach inside and that's very liquidy. So to get a nice crisp crunch on your pastry, it has to cook a bit more. As you can see, this tomato sauce is almost done. We're going to let it get a little bit drier and then just blend it and we're ready to eat. Now blending it, I very often myself use a hand blender, but when kids are involved, I feel extremely uncomfortable with using blades. Open hands, blades, not always the best mixture. So I prefer using a blender with the kids, and it's just easier. And the chances of, like in a hand blender, you lift it the wrong angle, everything is splattered. I'd much rather not deal with that. So we're going to blend this and be right back. And we're back. So this pasta looks perfect. It's perfectly al dente. And we have to be super careful. Okay, this is not hot. Put it down here. I have filled this with cold water and I'm going to prop it right back so it's not cooking anymore. And we can just pull it out when we're ready to eat it.
Yep.
And meanwhile, the tomato sauce is perfectly ready. We're just going to pour it out in this. Can you see how thick it is?
Yeah.
We could actually have let it become a bit drier. The thicker it is, the tastier it is. The all-important taste test. It's really hot. Let's see. It's phenomenal. And I'm not burning her here. You can taste the tomato, the onions. It's very hearty. So now we're going to make the, what's that Spanish thing called?
Queso de cabra al horno con tomate.
For that, what we're going to do is you take a small shallow container and you put some tomato sauce in it. Meanwhile, you get some cold goat cheese. And we're going to make a little hole in the middle, a hole in the wall. And we're going to pull off around this much, very little goat cheese. Make it into a little ball. And then we're going to sprinkle a little bit of basil, just for looks, more than anything else. And we bake this for 20 minutes. This is a Spanish dish, it's all ready. Now that our red sauce is ready, we're next going to assemble the pizza. Now, you can either get dough at home or you can just buy fresh made dough. I do both. I don't have one or the other that I do both. So we're going to take this out. We are going to bake just the base for around 5 minutes, because what I find is unless the base has already been baked, it tends to get a little soggy. So we're going to bake this for 5 minutes and be right back. Now that our base is done, we're going to put some
Tomato sauce on it.
bring this closer. I think maybe 2 more spoons. For most children, this is one of the funnest activities that they do, actually spreading pizza sauce on the pizzas and decorating it. At least my son loves it, and he's extremely jealous that he's not the helper today, but he's too little. I think just a teeny tiny bit more right here. All right, and the next step, we can put the cheese. I've just got shredded mozzarella, but actually very often I like to put different flavor cheeses.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And don't be shy with the cheese. The cheese is what makes the mozzarella. Go ahead, keep it. Keep in mind, it will all melt. It will all melt into a yummy pool of deliciousness.
Yeah.
I think that's good. And now the fun bit. You can put whatever toppings we like. Anushka requested some baby corn and olives and pineapples. I refused the pineapples. I said, never gonna happen. Go ahead, let's do it. What should we make? A face?
Yeah.
Are these eyes? And I can put some olives around in a circle.
Yeah. Different shaped eyes.
Perfect. We're gonna put this into bake. And I would bake this for around 10 minutes. What should we do next?
How about we dish out the pasta?
Perfect. Go for it. Make sure to drain it nicely. Okay, I think that's good. And a little dash of
Sauce? A little bit more, I think.
just a dash, well, however you like it. There's no right answer or wrong answer. And let's sprinkle it with a little bit of freshly shredded Parmesan. Is that enough for you?
A little bit more.
A little bit more, go ahead. Put as much as you want.
That looks good.
Great. Let's set that aside. While we're waiting, let's pour out the cocoa. I hate pouring. Do you want to do it for me? Slightly higher. That's it. I do. You shouldn't get more than me. That's not fair. And I have marshmallows. Now marshmallows are one of those things, and I hate doing this to the people who didn't know, are extremely non-vegetarian. They are not vegetarian at all, and which is why I normally cannot have them, except I have a Whole Foods next to me, and because of the Whole Foods we can get some vegetarian marshmallows. How many do you want to pop?
About 2.
Okay, let's have 2 each. One for me. All right. Now we're waiting for our pizza and our puffs, and let's not forget our dessert. Should we get our ingredients for our sugar cookies together?
Yep.
Perfect. With sugar cookies, it's always better to go with the recipe. We're going to make two things. First, we're going to, of course, everything is good, better with the recipe, especially if you are a child.
Yeah.
So, why don't you cream half a cup of butter with 1.5 cups of sugar. So, you open the butter, I'll pour in the sugar, and then you have to use some of your elbow grease.
Yeah.
One and the other.
This is half a cup.
This has to be softened. You can't use hard butter on this. Here, get the whisk. This is pretty much all the liquid that's going to be there, so this has to be very well creamed. We're going to put vanilla in it, around 2 teaspoons. This is half teaspoon.
Yes.
Go. Actually, 1.5. The best thing about making these cookie doughs is that this freezes really well. And when you want to thaw it out, you just thaw it out. Go for it. We're going to put in some baking soda. I always get confused about the amount, so that's why I've written it down. It is half a teaspoon baking powder, which is baking powder right here. And 1 teaspoon baking soda. And now we're going to add the flour. You can also mix the dry mixtures together and do it. So we're going to put 2.5 cups of flour in it. Hold on. Oh, that was very pretty. Too much elbow grease. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
2 more to go.
That's too much.
So we're going to mix this in, clean up this beautiful site, and be right back. Okay, the beeper went off. Let's get all the goodies out. The pizza. We can slice this and then we'll take everything else out.
Getting right through the face.
Hey, as long as it's tasty. But you can obviously bake it a bit more if you want it crisper. Great. I'm going to pull out the puff pastries, which look done too. Ooh, this is just perfect. Take a look at it.
So
And you can see the melty cheese and the brown puffs. Let's serve a puff up. Put it aside. And last but not least, let's take out the...
Queso de cabra al horno con tomate.
I seriously can't say. There. That looks perfect too. Let's just finish our cookies and we're ready to eat. So now, you can go directly on a cookie sheet, but I like to put some paper in between for 2 reasons. And I always bake this on the top part because otherwise I find like the bottom of my cookies very often get burnt. Let's take little small doughs and around this much, half of a golf ball. Make it around, press down a bit and put it, it's really going to expand. Like 4 to a row, I think. Now that this is done, let's decorate it. Which one do you want to do?
Chocolate chips.
Go for it. I'll do this gives it a nice crunch. I actually do something which is probably not the best thing to do, but I like it. Get a good amount of. Not a very deep hole, just a shallow hole. And just a teeny tiny bit of raspberry jam. see, if you're an ordered person, you'll go down, I mean, the way you think. I was going row-wise, she's doing all sorts of interesting shapes. Goes to show that different people think so differently. Now, you have to be careful about your oven not being too hot for this. Otherwise, your cookies will just bake. So we're just going to bake it for 8 minutes at 375 in a preheated oven. So, here we are, we're all set. We have our delicious
Queso de cabra al horno con tomate.
pizza, I can say that. It's a sort of hot pocket, or as we call it, puff or patty with spinach and cheese. Some penne with some red sauce. Now, if you wanted to make it an arrabbiata sauce, you could just add chili just at the onion stage and make it really hot. And some sugar cookies and some marshmallows in hot chocolate. So the way we eat this dish is you break off a piece of bread and you sort of work in the cheese. What are you going to try?
I'm gonna try the hot chocolate.
Go for it. Bon appetit.